ماشي حصل خير حصل خير. ماشي. بسبب ان احنا قاعدين في تلج دلوقتي, why not start with a refreshing start? Okay. Late 2017, a company by the name Long Island Iced Tea changed its stock market name from Long Island Iced Tea to Long Island Blockchain. This was a very ambiguous change and not understood by many people. But what do you think happened when that company changed its stock market name from iced tea, the main beverage it sells, to blockchain, an irrelevant word that has nothing to do with iced tea? Well, there's option A. The person responsible to that change was fired simply. That's basically corporate firing and corporate hiring. And or option B, the change had no effect and it was useless. Or option C, the stock market price of that company rose by a staggering 300%. Well, because I'm cliche, it's option C. And the stock market price of that company just rose in just a few months or even weeks by a staggering 300%. That's insane. Well, how could a word such as blockchain have so much power that it would increase the stock market price of a company by threefold? Well, I'm here to show you how this word, blockchain, has that power changing the market, has that power for us and how it will affect us in the future. But let's start off with a quick example. Imagine now with me that you just arrived to a new country that you're just visiting and you're passing through passport control. The officer there asks for your passport. He takes your passport and runs it through his scanner and it gives out a weird beep. The officer looks at you with a weird face. What happened? Well, basically, the officer tells you the system does not recognize you. You're basically no one to us. But how is that possible? I'm here, I have my passport, it has my credentials and everything. And I'm talking to you right now. How is that possible? Well, this might seem as an ambiguous case or out of the ordinary and too hypothetical. But it actually happens more than you think. And one specific example happened to this guy, Tay Arugula. He was born he was Kuwaiti born, but the problem was he was born during the Kuwaiti civil war, which caused issues with his identification process with his government. So when he went to Denmark to work over there, as any person can do in his life, he faced a major problem. He was forced to stay at a refugee camp for over 2 years, just because he had no identity. Just because the system that was responsible for his identity just failed. So, what caused that failure and why? I'll try to show you what caused that failure with a quick analogy. Basically, when you go to a hotel, the bellboy greets you and takes your luggage, because of course you're not going to take your luggage all the way to your hotel room. So he gives you a ticket that enables you to go back to him and entitle yourself to that luggage that you gave him in the first place. But here's the problem. What if that bellboy, for some reason, just left? Let's take the worst case scenario. He just died. What happened to your luggage? Well, not only your luggage, what happened to other people's luggage who used the same bellboy, who gave them a similar ticket that also was supposedly going to connect him to your baggage? Well, basically, your baggage is lost. Yes, you have the ticket, but what are you going to do to it? What are you going to do with it? It's basically worthless. So, that's the same situation that happened with Tay and the same situation that happened with us in the first place. Basically, we rely on a central government, here, the bellboy, that entitles us with our identity. When you're born, you go to the government and enlist and record with them your birth certificate. So the government, that central government, is responsible for all your identity. Basically, here's a visual representation. That's a network, basically, of how most of our systems are constructed of. We depend on one central node that we are all connected to, and if there's an issue with that central node, all the people connected to that node will have the same experience, and anything stored on that system will be lost. So basically our central node is our bellboy, and us and other people who gave that bellboy that baggage are the other nodes connected to that central node. So what happens here is that central node falls, all of us fall. But how do we solve that problem? Because it's not an easy solve. We must find a solution. Well, in late 2008, when the famous economic crisis happened in Wall Street and the stock market crashed, there was a person on the internet with the pseudonym of Satoshi Nakamoto introduced a paper online, an 8-page paper, only 8 pages, that basically solved all the problems that I just stated, where he was able to construct a new infrastructure for all our systems instead of that centralized network that we depended on one central node to is fully self-sustainable network that runs by the whole people who are connected to it. So basically that's a visual representation of it. See that there's no central network. Everyone's connected to each and every other one. So here, if we just try and eliminate any random node, see, that's what's going to happen. That node that's connected to the network is just going to fail, but it won't affect any other person on that node. Well, that solution was created for only one specific problem, and that was currency. Basically creating a new currency called Bitcoin, which, as Rami just showed us how it worked. So how could we take that system and evolve it to us and apply it to our lifestyle? How will it affect us as human beings and as youth? Basically, year after year, we always are getting step by step to becoming more digitalized and more internet dependent. But the issue we have here is that the internet that we depend on year by year, it's run by the same infrastructure that made the same problem with TEI and made the same problem with our passport control. So how could we just keep on relying on that system when it has such a major flaw that in 1 second all the people connected to that network would feel a major catastrophe? Well, basically, with blockchain, if we use it for our daily use and improving it to the Internet of Things, which is basically showing us how everything's becoming smart. Every day, every function that we do in our life is being incorporated through the internet. Smartphones, smart styles, smart thermostats, everything is becoming more smart. So we need a stable and viable infrastructure behind it to support it and eliminate and reduce any sort of loss of data or any vulnerability in that network. So basically, when we apply blockchain to our current systems, we will be able to increase the insecurity, basically remove any possibility of identity loss, and even record our own property. But that's not the limitation of blockchain. The blockchain until now is only a foundation. It could be whatever you want. Look right now in any problem that you have, blockchain may be a possible solution. See, remember TEI that I just started off with his analogy? Well, basically, TEI was able to create his own company called Tycoon, where he was able to remove his problem with blockchain. He was able to solve the identity problem that was happening because of that dependence on a centralized network, because that central node the government was failing on most of the time. He was able to implement blockchain and solve this problem by organizing his own own network called Tycoon. and is now being used in humanitarian aid all over the world to allow people, internally displaced people, Syrian refugees, anyone who has a problem with their identification, to have an identity and to be its own, and to be his own, not given out by his government, but he issues himself his own identity. And also, that's not another limitation. Basically, blockchain could be whatever you want. We can implement it in many things we don't understand. And people are now suggesting blockchain to be implemented in organizing our electricity. How could a computer science thing basically organize our physical electricity? Well, basically, that's the power of blockchain. But there's an issue. I've made blockchain seem more than it is. I've made it seem as a holy thing that it cannot be beaten or cannot be screwed up with, or it has no mistakes. But trust, that's no case with anything. Everything that we live with, everything that we use must have a flaw. And blockchain is no exception to that. However, it is an improvement. And what is life but improving on it? So I would just like to conclude this talk with remembering one thing, that all our lives we are internet dependent, and that internet is still running on that centralized system. So be careful, because it is vulnerable more than you think to large issues that might affect you in the future. And remember that blockchain could be a key to solving these problems. Thank you.